right, thank you everybody for joining us today for Business and Engineering. This is part 2 of a 3-part STEM series that we're launching with the Career Center this summer. We're really excited to talk to you all today about business and engineering. Just a few housekeeping things really quick. If you haven't heard this already, please turn off your microphones and your camera. Parrish and I will be going through this PowerPoint slide deck, and at the end of the slides, we'll have a few minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes, to answer any questions that you all might have. We'll also be staying on the video call for a few minutes after that as well. If you want to wait for the participants to kind of die down a little bit, we'll be more than happy to stay on and talk with you a little bit further. So this is meant to be more of an informational session, just to learn more about business and engineering in general, just to start the conversation, maybe start thinking about some ways that you want to get involved in the different areas. We're going to outline a lot of different things here. So our hope is by the end of this presentation, you'll set up a coaching appointment with either Parrish, myself, or another career coach within the office, and just start asking those questions and having those conversations. That's all this really is to give a little bit more of information to help kickstart that search. So my name is Paul Flournoy. I'm a career coach with the Career Center. I'm with engineering students as well as MHS, and I'm joined by my colleague Parrish.
Hey everybody, I'm Parrish Patel. Like Paul, I'm a STEM career coach. So I've got a few majors from School of Engineering and then also a few from College of Arts and Sciences. And one other quick thing, for anybody that might have missed the last session, if you are interested in consulting and tech, that session is available to view via Doorways. So feel free to log into Doorways, and right on the home screen under announcements, you can access the webinar video. So feel free to check that out if you missed the first one, or want to see the slides, or if you have any friends that might be interested, feel free to share that.
Awesome. Thank you, Parrish. And that is the same for this session as well. This session will be recorded, and we will post it on Doorways as soon as we can get that uploaded. So if you have some friends that wanted to join us today but weren't able to, or might have missed it, feel free to let them know that this will also be posted. All right. So let's get rolling.
Okay, so for the agenda today, similar to any folks who attended last week, we'll first start by just outlining some business opportunities and engineering opportunities. This will be a little bit different than consulting and tech, just given that these are much broader areas. So we'll talk more about that when we get to it in terms of how we'll kind of define those opportunities. Then we'll also have tactical ways that you can have a productive summer. So immediate action items you can take this summer to help position yourself favorably for these career paths. Also systems for tracking, monitoring your progress, and leveraging connections and information for your future search. We'll then close with identifying similarities and differences, and then share some closing thoughts and take any questions that you all might have.
Awesome. So we're going to get started with business. And so what our hope with this is to give you a little bit of verbiage and a little bit of an idea of different positions you can be applying for first full-time positions once you finish up with undergrad here at Vanderbilt. And so some positions that you can look for would be any analyst role, so data analytics, business analyst, finance analyst. These are great roles that you can get involved with pretty much any corporation out there. So use resources. Later on in this presentation, we'll show you some websites that you can take a look at, some solid job boards. And so in the keywords, analyst might be a good way to start to try to find different positions that will be posted. As well as business development. So between marketing and sales, there's going to be a lot of positions open. And so go ahead and look for any positions within marketing or sales, again, with either those same corporations as the analyst positions or a little bit more expanded search as well. Supply chain and logistics are also really great positions to take a look at. And so if you have any questions about any of those roles, we'd be more than happy to talk further in a coaching appointment setting, and we can really focus on an individualized approach to talk about how we see these job descriptions and where it aligns with your past experiences. One thing we really wanted to outline today is the difference between large companies and small companies or startups. So both are really great avenues to explore. I think there might be a little bit of a myth that startups are not as strong of an experience as large companies. And I want to kind of debunk that a little bit. Startups are great in their own ways. What I mean by that is right now with COVID going on, startups are looking for help, right? So they always have projects rolling in. They're trying to get off the ground. They'd love nothing more than to talk with a student who's really interested in what it is they're doing. Maybe you can get some volunteer project work over the summer and gain that experience. Large companies, obviously, the biggest pro is the brand. It's their name. It's what they have, their resources available to them, and their network. And so not much I need to say on that other than obviously look for your large companies, positions within them. There's going to be more. You'll be able to get paid a little bit more. You'll have access to more resources. It's a little bit easier to get in touch with them. So getting started, trying to talk to somebody about a position that you see, it's going to be a little bit easier. But again, small companies and startups are a great way to get your foot in the door. On top of that, if you're not sure about one area of business or one area of a startup, you'll be able to have that individualized one-on-one conversation with somebody in the startup that you might not be able to get with somebody who works for a large brand or a large corporation. So both great approaches. And if you have the opportunity to talk to somebody from a startup or a small company, I strongly encourage you to take advantage of that. You can really learn a lot.
Okay, so for engineering, the approach we took was more explorative. So identifying industries or functional areas that you have an interest in. Engineering is so broad and it's kind of woven in the fabric of most organizations in some capacity, whether it's manufacturing, if it's consumer electronics, medical devices, it's up here. So one way to get a sense of what your interests are is could be reflecting on coursework. So if there's a particular class that stuck out and then a specific application within that class, that may inform maybe checking out one of these industry areas. Another can just be personal interest. So if you've been fascinated by aviation, for example, and you want to lean into aerospace companies, that can then inform the next step, perhaps learning a little bit more about opportunities at Boeing, Lockheed Martin, so on and so forth. So there's so much variety in engineering. We think a good place to begin is kind of exploration and reflection to help perhaps narrow it a bit. And that's not to say you have to go all in on one of these areas. It's just, it can be helpful in maybe prioritizing. So if you have a large list of companies, maybe you rank one of these a little bit higher than the other. So you focus a little bit more of your time, your research, ahead of time, maybe for fall recruitment for those, and then you still have time to work with to then move down your list and maybe check out another industry or area that you have some interest in, but maybe not as much as kind of your top choice, your second choice. So again, as Paul mentioned earlier, if any of these industry areas or fields appeal to you, we'd love to take that next step and talk a little bit more in an individualized manner with you about action plans, companies, and things like that. So this is just to give you a sense of broad landscape of engineering opportunities. In terms of positions, it varies so much. That's why we didn't put any specific ones like we did for analyst, because analyst is just such a common early career job title. And it goes through all business functions from HR to finance, so on and so forth. With engineering, there are kind of common titles, but they can be very specific or niche based on the industry. So sometimes you'll see process engineering, design roles, then specific applications like 3D printing, robotics. So again, as you identify these kind of larger areas, and then you want to take that next step of maybe identifying specific internship programs or position descriptions, feel free to reach out. We'd love to help you maybe fine tune that process of identifying sourcing opportunities.
So we talked a little bit about the different areas, some keywords you can possibly look for when you're trying to search different positions. So what do we do this summer, right? How do we put it all together? So we put together 3 steps of how to have a strategic, how to be strategic in your summer and how to be productive, in the job search. The first is going to be company research. So that's going to go all the way from reading company websites, right? So what's their mission? What are some of their projects? What intrigues you about their company? What's something that they're doing that stands out from their competitors. Who are their competitors, right? So who are they working against or with? Who do they work for? And then the next step is going to be networking and outreach. I'm trying to find somebody within that company to learn more about. So we like to say there are 3 different lenses that you can find somebody to reach out to and somebody to network with. The first step is going to be your family, friends, and peers. So whether that's your neighbor, a family member, one of your classmates, maybe a classmate had an internship at a company you're really interested in. That's a part of your network too. You can definitely use that and talk with your classmate or your friend about how they like that experience. What stood out? How are they treated as an intern? What were some of the projects that they were taking on? The next is going to be Vandy alumni. And so this is mainly going to focus on full-time workers, some working professionals. So what alumni is working for the company that you're interested in working for? So you can talk to them about the office culture, what it was like for them. Maybe they went straight from Vanderbilt to this company. So you want to ask them questions related to how is their transition from being an undergrad and having classes, having little pockets throughout the day, and transitioning to a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 5. What was that transition like for them? And you'll be able to kind of connect on that even playing field that you both had 4 great years at Vanderbilt and Nashville, and then you'll be transitioning in full-time work. So you'll have some connection points there. And the third is just going to be industry professionals in general. The big pro about these cold outreach emails, somebody you might not yet know that you have a connection with, is that it kind of takes gives you a peace of mind in that you're going to be reaching out to somebody who doesn't know anything about you. You'll be able to tell your story. They won't have any assumptions about anything or any thoughts about anything. They'll give you free reins to connect with them. And it's all about that one-on-one peer relationship, right? So in some ways, it's really great to have that cold outreach. There is an intimidation factor that we understand comes with it. But really, the people who reach back out and connect with you after your initial outreach email, they really want to help you. And there's some high success rates and some great stories that we've heard about people sending emails to somebody that wasn't a Vanderbilt alum and just worked for a company they're interested in, turned out to be a mentor for them, a professional mentor. So some really great stories to come out of that as well. And the third way is skills development. So what are some ways that you can improve your professional development? Is it your interview skills, maybe small talk, maybe it's a programming language, or maybe it's just an online class that you're interested in, but don't have the time to fit it in with your academic schedule during the fall or spring semester. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into these 3 areas moving forward, but these are some great ways to spend your next few months.
So that first on the list is company research. So these are several different tools that you can utilize to learn more about companies. So apologies to the folks that attended our first session consulting attack, because we are going to talk about some of these again, because we do think they're valuable and they're beneficial across different industries, different career paths. So the first one is Vault. It's a unique kind of career exploration and career search platform site. The unique thing about Vault is they have tailored guides, articles, rankings for companies. And because of that, it's a paid resource. But as a Vanderbilt students, you all have free access to Vault, just vault.com. Just whenever you create an account, be sure to use your Vanderbilt email as your preferred email, and then you will be prompted through with your free access. So one helpful way just to begin is getting a little bit more granular as you search industry. So the list that I have up here is energy companies, specifically alternative energy companies. Some of these companies you might be familiar with, others you might not. So that could be a good way just to learn a little bit more about the landscape. And as Paul mentioned, even the competitive set. So if you're interested in one company, odds are you may be interested in some of their competitors too, because they do similar work. So what do you do with this information? Well, we'll talk a little bit more about how you can document it so you could kind of utilize it moving forward, but it's essentially to find highlights. So, okay, for GE, the next step could be going to GE's company site and learning a little bit more about specific internship programs and where they're based. Maybe you have a location preference and you can get a sense of, does GE have internship opportunities in Chicago? or you're a little bit more open, that may be beneficial in that it provides more opportunities. Another is even within the scope of their programs, maybe you have a specific application you're interested in. So for example, you're really interested in battery engineering, battery research, and you might find a company on here that's doing that type of work for energy harvesting. So this can be a really helpful way to learn more about just the market, the landscape, and what opportunities are available to you. So that's Vault. You can do this also with company career sites. The helpful thing with Vault is it just gives you several different companies that fall into a category. Usually what we say is go straight to the source. So that's where company career sites come in handy. And equally as beneficial, if not more, is networking with folks that work at those companies. But the company career sites can be a good start too. As Paul said, you get a general sense of mission, strategic initiatives, whether they're a national company, multinational, products, services, things coming in the pipeline. Another good one is Glassdoor. If you're not familiar with it, it allows former employees or interview candidates to leave reviews. So it could give you a sense of what the interview might look like, what employees' experience is at the company. So you might find some highlights, in some cases, some things that don't align with your interest or your values. So that could be good general information. One thing that I'll mention again, just like last time, is Glassdoor. The reviews are anonymous, so take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes it might not be the most accurate depiction of a company, but it can be just a good general indication. Reddit's another good one. There are lots of groups on Reddit that are tied to specific domain areas, whether it's tech or engineering or specific thing within engineering, like robotics, for example. So if you were to search the company on Reddit, you might find some folks that have worked there, that are working there, and you get a little bit more of a sense of what it looked like to navigate their way there from interviewing and just day to day. And then the last one is Doorway. So that's the Career Center's application system or job posting system. So companies that want Vanderbilt talent who reach out to us, we'll post those opportunities on Doorway. So we do recommend checking it periodically. Not that you have to do it every day, but every once in a while, just browse, are there opportunities that are available that you might be interested in? Or what we've highlighted are informational sessions. That's when an employer will do a session. Even throughout the summer, they'll do it virtually through Zoom, where you can learn a little bit more about the company from a representative. Oftentimes the representatives are Vanderbilt alumni, and then they'll also share some information about internship programs, job opportunities. A great part of that too is it allows for a natural way to reach out, because if you attend, that gives you a really good introduction by saying, hey, I attended your information session through Vanderbilt. Thank you for sharing those insights. Would love to continue the conversation. So take advantage of those sessions, even if you're only slightly interested, and it helps you maybe rule out a company. That could be helpful as well to maybe determine some aspects that you don't enjoy in a company setting. But in other cases, it could provide some connections and perspective from somebody firsthand within the company.
So we've done our research. What do we do with it, right? So we reach out to somebody. What does that message look like? Here's the little example that we've put together. So again, we want that message to be, we want you to be brief and clear. I'm sorry, but I don't think that any employer has time or really want to read a novel in their inbox. So we want to keep it as simple as possible. So the example email would look something like, hi, Parrish. My name is Paul. I'm a rising junior at Vanderbilt University, majoring in electrical engineering. I'm reaching out because I have an interest in process engineering and aspire to pursue a career similar to yours. I would love to hear about your experience working in consumer electronics. Would you be open to a brief call for 15 to 20 minutes with me? Thank you in advance for your consideration. So some key points here. First is going to be who you are, right there at the top. And if you're reaching out to a peer or a Vanderbilt alumni, they're going to see Vanderbilt University as a keyword to them, and it's going to trigger in their mind that there's a connection, and that's going to yield a higher response rate. For those who are not Vanderbilt alumni or a peer, and it's one of those cold outreach, they're going to recognize that Vanderbilt's a really prestigious institution, and you're going to be a very highly qualified candidate, and it would be worth their time to read the email and make a connection and just hear about your experiences and answer any questions for you. So why are you reaching out? That's going to be another great point. So what do you want from them? You want to explore a similar career path to theirs, and so you're open to a brief call, which is going to be your call to action and the question that you're posing. Would they be willing to hop on the phone and talk with you for a very brief amount of time? So that 15 to 20 minutes is key, because a lot of people will probably have 30 minutes open on their calendar, and a 30 to 45-minute call might be a little bit long. So while you might have that much time in terms of content, we want to really keep it brief and keep the opportunity open to maybe have a follow-up call with additional questions. Extend that relationship one conversation further. So if they don't respond, what do? You can follow up with them. So typically 10 to 14 days, if that go by without hearing back, you can respond to that initial email. So not sending a new string of email, but just responding to this one with a very quick note saying something like, I'm sure you've been quite busy, so I just wanted to briefly circle back. I would still value an opportunity to chat with you if you have some spare time soon. Thank you. They're going to see that and think, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to respond to that email that's here. All they have to do is scroll down to read your note. So that's why responding to the email is very crucial. So some resources for now. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No, go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say some resources for networking and outreach. The Vanderbilt Alumni Association has a really great resource for you connect. Parrish and I both vouch for that resource as a very strong application for you to use. So you can search the alumni directory for any sort of employer name, employer city if you're location bound, or maybe you just want to search people in your major. What do alumni who studied what you studied, what are they doing now? It's a great resource. You can tag 2 different searches as well. So if you want to find people who are data analysts in Nashville, Tennessee, you can search that all together instead of having 2 lists, combining them. Next is going to be LinkedIn. If you have a LinkedIn, it's great to have your profile updated and continuously growing that network. So trying to get to 500 plus connections with people who you want to learn more from and connect with and talk to. It's going to be a great resource to search for people. So you can use an advanced search function there. If you click in the top search bar, you're going to see people, and then you can add Vanderbilt University and maybe GE Electric if you're into that, or maybe Home Depot if you want to work at Home Depot. So a really great search function for LinkedIn as well. CareerShift is my personal favorite. CareerShift is a job board that pulls from other job boards like Indeed.com, but they also have a contacts tab. And so if you find a position that is really interesting to you, it's really cool because it'll say find contacts and you click that. And most of the time there's going to be a list of, 5, 10 different people that work for that company that you can connect with, and they'll have their email listed right there. The best part about that is the email listed is going to be their work email, and that's going to be the highest yield of response because that's the email they're going to be using 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So that's the email that will be really beneficial to get our hands on. Other resources.
One quick thing, Paul wrote just real quick that I wanted to point out about CareerShift is it's similar to Vault in that it's a paid resource, but you all get free access as Vanderbilt students. One additional thing to be aware of when you do create an account, in addition to using your Vanderbilt email, another field that you'll have to fill out is called University Identifier. And for that, just put Vanderbilt with a capital V. So not Vanderbilt University, just Vanderbilt with a capital V. Just wanted to point that out because if you add university or the V is lowercase, it could get a little bit hokey and won't let you through. So if you do run into any issues, just let one of us know at the office and we'll help you out.
Great point. Thank you, Parrish. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. But yeah, it's a paid resource that our office pays for you to have access to. So yes, make sure you use your Vanderbilt.edu email and use capital V Vanderbilt at the group identifier at the bottom of registration for you to get access. And so some other resources that you can take advantage of: professional associations and professional conferences. These are awesome ways to get connected and find somebody to reach out with And so with professional associations, actually, on the Vanderbilt Career website, you can find in Explore Exploration tab, you can find the Explore Industries button, And you click that, you go into a site where there's going to be a list of all the different industries that you can go into. And within those different industry bullets, there's going to be a list of professional associations. So make sure you take a look at that resource as well.
Okay, so now we've got skills development, and we've broken this down into two categories, so soft and technical, and you'll see some examples of there. So these are things that you could work on this summer, especially on the technical side if you do have some time to work with. And we don't necessarily mean by taking a formal course. A lot of times you can make great progress through online tools that are free. So YouTube tutorials, free open source classes. So this could be a way to gain a competitive advantage. So the reason we've put that position description, so this is one that we just found online. It's for recent grad. We scrolled down, and for years of experience, it said 0 to 2. So that's perfect. That means Home Depot's identifying recent graduates for this role. Supply chain analyst. So the reason, again, that we've picked analyst is it's just such a ubiquitous position title for early career. So a little bit more on that. It's essentially utilizing data insights. So that could be consumer insights, product insights, and it's helping managers and team leaders make more informed decisions. So for supply chain, that could be around stocking inventory. It could be around transportation of goods. In other cases, for finance, it might be monitoring spending, budget allocation. So the core of what an analyst does is utilize data to help folks make informed decisions. So tools that they use are things like Access, Excel, SQL. So Excel, for an example, we all generally use Excel, but maybe our skill degree varies. So it goes beyond maybe making a simple spreadsheet. So identifying what are some key Excel skills that would be valuable. So the job description could be a great way to identify kind of that first layer. So what are the tools? And then a second step could be, as you're speaking to folks, doing these informational interviews or curiosity conversations, we call them, asking them, if they say, yeah, the tools I use are Access, Excel, it's like, oh, that's really interesting. What are some key functions in Excel that you utilize? Well, I use macros quite a bit. I use VBA, and, take notes of these and utilize that to kind of help strengthen your future candidacy. It's like, you know what? I haven't worked with pivot tables, so check out a few YouTube videos on pivot tables. And then that's something you could speak to in an interview setting or as you're networking. And it's about kind of signaling alignment. So how your skills and experiences translate. So even if you haven't had an internship doing supply chain, that's okay. I've only put the top portion of the position description, but as you go down, it said, I think, preferred major. It was so broad, from engineering to business to other things. So more than maybe direct alignment with major, something like that, they're looking for skills and kind of transferable attributes. So looking at job descriptions, internship descriptions could be a great way to identify those. On the softer side, that can be challenging. We get that. It's like, well, how do I convey adaptability? So for that, it's more about reflecting on experiences you've had and then identifying key stories that demonstrate that. So for adaptability, maybe reflecting on a group project you did for an engineering class and talking about maybe how COVID-19 impacted that. Maybe for any seniors that had senior design, how you had to recalibrate your approach. That could be a great way to convey your ability to adapt. For communication, it could be about reports you've done, projects you've done, presentations. And then teamwork, that's another great thing about Vanderbilt and School of Engineering is it's a very collaborative. You all do a lot of group projects. So it's just about, identify maybe a few projects that stand out. It's like, hey, what are some key stories that would be great to share in an interview setting or a networking setting to show that I possess these skills? And by developing these skills, incorporating them into your resume, into just your repertoire for interviews and conversations, the more you'll be able to signal that alignment and kind of be more competitive for those roles.
Yeah, and on top of that, something I just want to mention is, we're very confident that one of the questions you're going to be asked is, what did you do during quarantine? What did you do to improve your professional development? And yeah, you can answer, I learned how to play the ukulele, or I learned a new language, right? But if you say, you taught yourself new functions in Excel, or you taught yourself SQL, you took an online course, you worked on a skill, it's going to show some high self-awareness and some motivation that you possess, that you'd be able to portray when working for Home Depot's supply chain analyst. They're going to see that you're a go-getter and that you're aware that you might have a few gaps in your knowledge, but you're willing to go and work towards that and progress. And that's what they want to see. That's really what's going to set you in front of other candidates when applying for a job. So we've given you a lot of information, a lot of things to go out and do, right? So how do you keep track of it all? This is one way that we like to do it. And so there's a few different ways you can do this. It's really dependent on how you think and how you stay organized. This is just an example. Don't feel like you have to have these exact headers for each column, right? So, but just as an example, having the company name, the category or the industry it's in, the link to the career site for that company, these are all beneficial, right? So just staying on top of, who are you applying to, right? Or who are you trying to talk to? Next is going to be key skills and experience. This is good to see here because you'll think, okay, if I want to work for GE, some things I'll have to work on, some skills or some experiences are going to be analytical skills, collaboration, presentation, right? Who's the contact? What's their name? What's their email? And then actually my favorite part about tracking your progress and staying organized on top of this is going to be having all these dates here is very, very beneficial, right? So these green and red highlights here, that's one way that I like to stay organized. So if I send an outreach email, date contacted on June 20th, right? So the green highlight means that they've already responded and we maybe set up a time to talk. But the green symbolizes that they've responded, we're in communication. Red is I've not yet heard back. I'm still waiting to hear back. So with that, the next column would be beneficial to have is follow-up date. So as you can see, we have NA next to Paul, myself, who already responded, right? But if Parrish hadn't responded yet, the 10 to 14 day window, I'm going to say it's July 1st, right? That'd be a good day for me to follow back up. That's just some way that you can visualize it, some way you can see it and quickly glance through and say, okay, I have not heard back from this person. If you just want to keep tabs and keep track of that. Next, contact method. So how did you find their contact information? How did you get connected? Always good to keep track records of that. And then once they do respond, going back to that green highlight, make sure you put that info call date. So the second that you set up a time, go ahead and put that date in this Excel sheet so you stay on top of it. And then always send a thank you note within 24 hours after you have that phone call. And so keeping track of that, see who you have or have not sent one to, is always very beneficial. And then of course the notes column. What did you like about the conversation? What did you get out of it? What skills or what resources did they recommend that you should look at? Keeping all this in one Excel sheet is good. So another way you can do it, and one way that's not shown here, is through Excel. You can have different sheets for different areas. So maybe you want to connect with some people in business, right? And you want to look at analyst positions. You can have one sheet do business analyst positions and then have a new sheet be maybe supply chain positions. Or maybe you want the new sheet to be engineering roles. But that way you kind of stay separated and you don't get lost in the weeds of, oh, okay, I forgot where I put my GE or my Chevron, right? So just staying organized that way is also beneficial.
So here we've just pointed out some similarities and differences as you consider a path within business versus engineering. And these lists could go on and on. The reason we kept it pretty short is a lot of these are true for both areas. So in terms of similarity, problem solving, you get to, even in business, utilize that problem solving skill set that you've got to develop through an education in engineering or a science field. And that provides a lot of value for these organizations. And we've heard through conversations with employers, a side note, Paul and I have actually used Vanderbilt's alumni platform this summer. The Career Center is doing a project just to do some outreach. So we've been doing our own informational interviews, kind of like what you all would do to reach out. And it's been great. I think last week I reached out to 5 and 3 got back to me in the week, and I had 3 calls. And that was, I mean, I identified them maybe in 5 to 10 minutes, added them to a spreadsheet very similar to the one Paul created. And it was a great opportunity to chat with them. And I asked them all, I was like, would you be willing to chat with students? And they all said, yeah, absolutely. If a student were to reach out, I'd be happy to talk to them. And one of them was an analyst. So I got to learn a little bit more about his specific roles and some technical skills and things. So yeah, take advantage of those networking opportunities and learn about how their skill set and education translates to their work. So problem solving is true. Data driven, that's certainly true of both engineering and business roles, especially for analysts if you're working a lot with databases, spreadsheets, consumer insights, business intelligence, things like that. And then an element of being detail-oriented and organized. So differences, so technical skills, certainly true. So if you're in maybe a classical engineering role, that's much more applied. So 3D printing, where you need knowledge of specific like CAD modeling or SolidWorks, that's going to differ. You know, your tools used for an analyst role for a business function would look different. So it's just gauging what are you most interested in? Is it generally problem solving and you're willing to adapt based on the function of an organization? Or do you prefer to really do hands-on engineering or something that's kind of more traditionally engineering? There's no right or wrong to that. That's where this exploration could be beneficial because it might open up new opportunities or different opportunities. Industries too. So if you're really focused on a specific area, I think earlier I mentioned aerospace, that may narrow your search because you're going to target aerospace companies versus like Home Depot or consumer packaged goods, something like that. So that's a difference to be aware of. If you do recognize that there are certain industries that appeal to you most, you can prioritize those. Then also the development outlook, that I think is certainly true in business. So some students we've worked with that want to go into a business role. And again, please don't think that analyst is kind of the only position. It's just so common. That's again why we wanted to hone in on that. There are plenty of other position titles and scope of work that you could pursue within business roles. There's even entrepreneurship too. If you're interested in that, let us know. We could chat with you about it. But the development outlook. So some students, while they really enjoyed their engineering curriculum or science curriculum, maybe they're more people focused and want to work in a collaborative setting on bigger picture problems. So in business, that might be related to sales, marketing, growth. Maybe on the engineering side, it's product development, it's material science, the color and finish of a consumer electronics items, things like that. So it's just getting a sense of what type of problems are you interested in solving? Because again, both allow for that problem solving. So you're going to get to utilize that skill set you have. So development for business might move more into management within a function. So let's say you were to go into logistics and you really enjoy it. Maybe naturally you might think, okay, next step, I want to go from logistics analyst to a logistics manager, or maybe pivot to a different functional area. Maybe in engineering, you're really interested in R&D and you later find, you know what, I'm most interested in the research and development side of it. So I think I might pursue an advanced degree, a graduate degree. That's not to say you couldn't for business. Maybe you're interested in MBA. It's just the pathways look a little bit different. So something to be aware of. And again, I know we say it a lot, but networking can be really helpful. A phrase we often use is, what better way to sense, career trajectory than reverse engineering the paths of folks that are already there. So if you search these titles in LinkedIn, you can just quickly click on the page of these folks that you're seeing that have these job titles and see it's like, okay, they got their undergrad degree in this, they did this job for 3 years, they actually got a master's degree in this, and you're just getting a better sense of what it could look like if you're in that role for a few years. So just a few things to be aware of. And one other thing that I wanted to add to, for any students that feel, for something more business oriented, would I be a good fit, or I don't necessarily have background or internships in business, that's okay. Trust us, we've talked to these employers. They really enjoy STEM talents, so students with science or engineering background, because again, even if you haven't maybe worked in a finance role or worked in a marketing role, your problem solving abilities, your abilities to interpret data, that's very valuable for these companies. So they're happy to take on students with non-business backgrounds. Don't feel that that's a disadvantage. If anything, it's an advantage, and it might make you even more competitive for some of those opportunities.
That's a great point, Parrish. Yeah, it's all about perspective, right? So you have some great experiences and some great skills, right? So if they're not directly related, or they're not, the words don't translate directly to the job description, that's okay. It's how we talk about those experiences, how we use those skills to get ahead. That's really going to be the difference maker. I want to emphasize what Parrish said, that in some cases, having a diverse background is a breath of fresh air, and bringing that new perspective and new ideology is huge for a company. So let that be a motivator, if anything. So with that, some next steps, right? So check out the Career Center website. Like I mentioned earlier, the Explore Industries tab on the Career Center homepage, you'll be able to look at some professional associations there, as well as there's links to Vault and CareerShift and all the other great resources we had here. Go to Doorways. Doorways is an awesome resource for you as well. There's some job postings there as well as future engagement with our office, other programs. All summer long, we're going to be talking to alumni, trying to get some awesome alumni to come and talk on different panels and talk on workshops and webinars. So keep an eye out for those. We're really excited to bring in some alums and have them engage with you more, right? So that's going to be really great. And schedule a career coaching appointment. We're here. We really want to help you find that individualized approach and find that right position for you. How do we get there? How do we connect the dots? We're happy to have these conversations with you. And we're really excited about that. So please use us, and please use our resources that we have available as well. So like we mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, this is number 2 of 3. So the third one is going to be July 7th, where we're going to talk about project management and rotational programs. So please tune into that as well. And we look forward to talking to you in the meantime. I'm really excited to hear from you. So Parrish, if there's anything else you have to add.
Just one quick thing on Doorways. If you don't already have interest determined within your profile, that could be really helpful to do. So basically, when you log in and go to your profile, you can identify industries or functional areas you have an interest in. So for example, tech or finance. And by doing that, our colleagues who work in employer relations, so they're the folks that are on the phone constantly having meetings with employers to try to get them to recruit all you awesome students. They send out a weekly newsletter. So you may already get these, some names that might sound familiar: Camilla Stringfellow, Ann Matthews, Penny Baga. In this message, they usually send it on Sunday. It's just kind of a long list of opportunities that are open. But in addition to that, especially this summer, they will highlight additional resources. So for example, Camilla has been highlighting this series that Paul and I have been doing. And another example is the alumni outreach that we've mentioned. We've taken some of the feedback we've gotten for alumni, and we've put it into documents that just have quick questions about, hey, could you describe your position to somebody that's not familiar? How did you get to it? So it's around 4 to 5 questions, and it's just a single PDF. So our employer relations folks will attach that to that newsletter. So that could be helpful just to browse. In some cases, it might be a job title that you haven't heard of at all. It's like, wait, what is that? So you get a sense of what it looks like. Another valuable piece of that is, in some cases, if the alumni are willing to kind of continue the conversation, they will allot time for students to have one-on-one talks with them, and that will be posted through Doorway. So don't miss out on those opportunities. So again, that's why we definitely encourage checking Doorways periodically, just to see what sessions or connection opportunities there are like that. And that's it for me. And thank you all again for attending. And we should have this session up on Doorways within the next few days or early next week.